Hi, this is Ernie Vargas from REI Leadership Academy, home of the Probate Fox. And today I want to talk to you about probate letters for when you're out there wholesaling your properties. So, how do we put together our probate campaigns? Well, I've always told people that the best thing that you want to do is you want to have sequential letters. So you want to have more than one letter. Why is that? Well, just think about this. In today's day and age, probate is a very popular term, and so there are more than one group of people that are out there sending letters to these prospects. So I have found that when I send more than one letter, I'm probably one of the few that does that. And so I like to send out, if possible, 7 letters. But there's different ways to mix and match this. What I really want you to think about is, I want you to think about where you are at and who you are specifically. Meaning, what's your financial, what's your marketing budget? Okay, so think about your own personal finances and your marketing budget, and think about your time. So if you're a little strapped for cash, and you have to understand that putting out sequential direct mail campaigns is going to cost you money. It's going to cost you a certain amount of money in terms of your paper, your ink, your stamps. All that stuff adds up. So think about that. If money isn't so much of an issue, and you actually can afford that, I'd like for you to put together a sequential campaign, and usually about 7 letters is a good average. But it all depends. You have to monitor and watch your probate leads. You want to see if they have been sold or not. So obviously, if you're monitoring your leads, then you'll be able to see whether they should be sent additional letters or not. So what you want to do is you want to think about where your prospect is. You want to monitor your probate leads to see if they have been sold or not. That's important. It's easier to do when you focus on a tighter geographic market. So I always say, be an expert in your own backyard. You become an expert in your own backyard, and then you can grow from there. So for example, I've got a big team, and we're in a couple of different states and a couple of different cities. That's big, and that's way too big for people that are just getting started. However, as you grow, you can grow into things like that. But when you're getting started, you want to start just in your own backyard. And so you want to understand, and know what is going on in that community. You want to have the ability to go out there and drive by these houses and see if there's any activity. So if your budget is tight and you're having a challenge sending out sequential letters, you can send out 1 letter and then follow that up with a phone call if you have their phone number. If you don't have their phone number, then you can go ahead and actually take that one step further and go out there and door knock on their house. I know that for most people that can be intimidating, but it just comes down to how bad do you want it. I mean, it really is. You'll find out that the majority of these people are actually friendly. I know it can be scary at times to talk to a total stranger who in your mind you may be thinking is grieving, and they may be grieving, but also understand that these individuals have a very big problem on their hands called probate. And with that problem comes an opportunity for you to be a solution. So always think about that when you're prospecting to these people. Think about the fact that you are bringing solutions to these problems. It really helps to make these shifts in your mind. So talk about sending 1 letter, follow that up with a phone call. If need be, go out there and door knock. Now, if you can go ahead and put yourself into a sequential letter campaign, then what I would recommend is to set yourself up with 7 letters. So 7 letters, why? Well, because it allows you to be recognized by them more than once. Many times I get sellers that tell me, I'm calling you because I'm finally ready, but you're like the only person that's mailing to me. When this probate process began, I got maybe a group of letters, and depending where that city may be, there may be more traffic in one area than the other. But I got a big group of letters, and as the months went by, nobody was mailing out to me except yourself. So letters are really, really good because they help you leverage your time. The more you can leverage your time, the more time that you have, and the more that you can, source yourself into doing different things. However, that's not always the thing that everybody can do, especially if your money's a little tight. But you want to mix and match. I also want to talk to you about the seller's motivation. You have to understand that these people are very motivated in probate. They have inherited real estate, which is good in theory, but not everybody is concerned about getting that payday. Oftentimes people have a lot on their plate already in life, right? People are managing, a job and a family, many things going on in people's lives, and so the fact that they have to manage this probate is a burden. And so the seller's motivation in probate tends to be very high. Now there could be attorneys in the way, and sometimes these attorneys are helpful to their client and sometimes they're not, and sometimes they're helpful to you and sometimes they're not. So that's just all over the place. But usually you'll find that these attorneys are not very helpful in terms of helping these executors and administrators liquidate the real estate. So again, you're a support for them in that. I also want to talk to you about out-of-state heirs. Out-of-state heirs have a different motivation level than an in-state heir most of the time. The fact that they are in control of a property that is vacant and out of their sight and out of their ability to manage is very scary for most people. Why? Well, we have situations like squatters. We have situations like the abatement. The city may come by and slap an abatement fee and notice on a property if the weeds are growing, the windows are getting vandalized and broken, and maybe it's attracting the wrong element onto the property. The neighbors are complaining. All of these things are problems. A house that's vacant is not really a house that can be insured very easily, right? Insurance companies don't want to insure these vacant properties. So all of these are challenges for these people that are out of state. So think about that. What about people that are in state? How does that work? Well, it really depends. I would say that people that live within close proximity to the house have usually an ability to manage that property a little bit better, but it really all depends on where that person is at in their life. Again, do they have a family, to take care of, and do they have a full-time job? Most do. I understand that there are many baby boomers who are retired and can no longer, actually, there are baby boomers who are often retired and don't want to manage these probates. Even though that they don't have a full-time job or any job to go to, they want to enjoy their retirement. So this is a burden. So always we look at where people are at. So also with the people that live within the proximity, just because they live within that proximity doesn't mean that they don't have a need to liquidate. So usually, unfortunately, in America, people are not living very well off, right? People don't necessarily have a stack of money underneath the mattress to take care of all the things that come with real estate management, right? So there's fixing up these houses and there's taking care of them and doing all these things, and they don't have that money. And so logically, the fastest and easiest thing is to sell the house, get it out of their hands as quickly as possible, right? And because a lot of these houses tend to be dilapidated and in just with a lot of deferred maintenance, it's just not a property that can attract a retail value. And so unfortunately, these sellers are in a tough situation. So you're of service to both out of state and in state, but they have different motivation levels. Okay, great. So you've put your letters out and the phone rings. Oh, that's great. Let's go over scenario number one. Scenario number one is somebody wants to talk to you about selling their house. Fantastic. Lead your conversation with empathy, right? Understand that somebody may still be grieving. We don't know that, right? But be professional about it. Try to mirror people, right? Even though they're on the phone, you can mirror the tone of voice that's coming across the phone, right? Somebody may come across to where it seems that they may be rude, and that may not be necessarily their intention, but who knows what's going on in their life, right? So remember to lead this conversation with empathy and be very self-confident as you're speaking to these people, and go through the process, where they're at, and try to get an appointment and get to that house and close that house. Now, let's go over scenario number two. Let's say that they're calling you and they're saying, I got your letter and I'm not interested and please don't bother me, right? If that's the case, I understand that, but I always got to try a little bit more. I don't know exactly where they're at. They may have been bothered and bombarded by other unprofessional real estate solicitors. It happens. There's some people out there that don't have a lot of empathy and don't care about other human beings. That's not us, but there are others that are out there. So I ask, yes, Mr. or Mrs., You know, but may I ask you a question? Do you think that you might consider selling in the future? Is that a possibility? It just, they might come back and say, well, I might be interested in selling in the future, or no, not at all. They might even say something like, how did you even get my information? Right? Well, the reality is that I'm a real estate investor and I have a business that's dedicated to buying properties. And so your name came across as somebody who is actually going through probate. And I understand in my years of experience that there are many people that choose to liquidate the real estate. And so that's what I'm here to, talk to you about. If they say, well, I don't want you calling me, I don't want you talking to me, I don't want you writing to me, that's completely fine. I understand. And you go ahead and dismiss yourself from that conversation. Not a problem. There's way too many leads. So see, one of the important things is not only having more people to talk to, but having people that you can scratch off your list, people that you should not be spending your time to, people that are not qualified to be on your list. That's really, really important. That's something that people often don't get. Oftentimes people want to try and convert everybody, and it's not about converting everybody. It's about give it your best shot, but also learning to let those leads that you shouldn't be spoken to anymore off your list, because you want to make time for those that are ready to talk to you and those that do want to talk to you. Believe me, there are so many people that want and need your service, and it's up to you to find them. But if you have too many of those bad leads in there taking up space, it's going to make it hard for you to find those good ones. So let go of those. You might get another call, this is number 3, that says, you know what, I'm interested in selling, but I'm not interested in doing that right now. I may be interested in the future. Or they may say something like, I might be selling in a few months. That happens all the time. So see, understand that most people that are filing a probate aren't necessarily ready to sell immediately. Everybody has something different going on. Oftentimes they have to, liquidate the personal assets that are in the house. And by the way, that's something that you can help with. That's something that I teach in my programs, how to be that facilitator to help connect the liquidation sale liquidation company and the executor administrator. Put those two together. You can be that person, that go-to person that helps them do that. And so that you're there at the forefront, walking side by side with them as they're getting ready to do that in the future. And then that is just basically a good follow-up action plan. And number 4, the next one is, what if they tell you that they are interested in selling, but they want you to speak to their attorney, right? It happens. So this is something that is really important that you understand. These executors and administrators are the shot callers. They're the boss, not the attorney. The attorney is the hired help, okay? And oftentimes, as a society, we look at attorneys with a lot of respect, and as we should, just like anybody else. But look at yourself with a high respect as well. You're bringing a tremendous service as a real estate professional. So when you're talking to these people and they mention that they want you to speak to their attorney, tell them that you'd absolutely like to talk to the attorney and that you will do so. But as a executor or administrator of the estate, just remind them that they have the ability to make all decisions. And basically what you are doing is you're just buying the real estate that's held in the estate. They want you to talk to the attorney? Absolutely, go ahead and talk to the attorney. My attorney conversations go a couple different ways. There's some attorneys that are so happy and gung-ho about talking to me. As a matter of fact, I just spoke to an attorney the other day. She was, really happy to speak with me because her client her client was a hoarder. And her client had the whole house packed with a lot of different things. And the attorney said, yes, so are you telling me that you can buy this house and you'll buy it with all the things that are in there? Because that was my message. I said, absolutely. You guys don't have to move a thing. And so she was excited about that. And so she's been working with me so that I can actually buy that property. There are other attorneys that just say, okay, when the seller is ready, I will contact you. Go ahead and send me your information. And if that's the case, that's fine. I'm not gonna debate with how they should operate, their service to their client. But what I do want to tell them is absolutely, Mr. or Mrs. Attorney, I will. Here's my contact information. I'll send it to you via email. And not only will I send them my contact information via email, but I will also send them some information about myself and my company and how we provide service. send testimonials, send endorsements, companies that you work with, your title company, your closing company, escrow companies, all these other entities that work with you and that have seen you perform. Now, if you don't have that, that's okay. If you're new to the business, that's okay. You start at wherever you're at. When I first got started in this business, I didn't have any of these things. That doesn't matter. So don't let that get in the way. You start at wherever you're at. So if you don't have those things, maybe you might have an associate or a friend that's got maybe some experience under their belt, and they can, help endorse you. Right now, if you don't have that, at the end of the day, it's okay. Believe me, if you go after it, and you'll find people that are willing to work with you. So, but provide some information about yourself, and then follow up. Make sure that you follow, because the majority of attorneys are very, very busy, and they don't necessarily have the time to follow up with you. Get permission to email them periodically, right, as a follow up, and also occasionally be able to give them a call. Now, if you hit it off with the attorney, which it also happens, especially with smaller offices, ask if you can maybe stop by and just say hello. Just shake hands with them. Maybe even go out to lunch. Things like that. It just all depends. You'll find that attorneys are all over the place, but there are many attorneys that will absolutely welcome some time with you to sit with you. Aside from that, some people ask me if we should be mentioning in our letters, if we should be mentioning the fact that we are aware that they are going through probate or not. Well, I'll tell you that there's two schools of thought. The first one is writing a letter, and on that script you talk about the fact that you're a real estate professional and that you've been made aware that they are going through probate, right? The second school of thought is that you don't talk about probate at all, but rather you just say, hey, I'm an individual who's interested in purchasing real estate in your specific neighborhood, and wondering if you'd have any interest in selling it. Which one is right and which one is wrong? Well, I'll tell you that when I first started in this business, since I was maybe one of the only persons out there that was writing to people, it was completely okay to talk about probate. Fast forward to today, when there are so many other people prospecting to the same lead and sending letters, it just may depend. It may depend on your city and how many people are prospecting to that particular person. There really is no right or wrong answer, and I'll tell you that because I'm in various cities, not only in California but outside of California, out through the Midwest and the South as well. And I usually have led my letters with the conversation about probate. I come right out and say, this is who I am, and this is why I'm writing to you. And occasionally, yeah, sure, I'll get a few people that say that they're not interested. They may even be upset that I'm writing to them. But the majority of people, I'll tell you, they appreciate my time, and they appreciate the fact that I just get right to it. Now, I've also tried sending letters that don't talk about probate, and they've also had an equal as good of a response. So it just really depends. It's what you feel most comfortable with. There really is no right or wrong answer. Both work, and that's my experience. 20 years of doing this, 20 years plus of doing this. And like I said, not just in California, but I'm in Texas, I'm in Ohio, I'm in Atlanta, I'm in a couple of different places, and both work. So for now, I think that's about all that I've got to share with you. I'd appreciate a few things from you back. Please comment if you like this video. Give me some comments, and give me some thumbs up, give me some likes. I would absolutely appreciate that. And subscribe so that we can continue with this conversation. Another thing that you can do is, if there are other topics that you want to know more about, feel free to email me. You should have some information as to where to email me at, but info@probatefox.com is one place, and you'll find some information down below about how to get a hold of me and how to get in contact with me. Love to hear more of what you want and how I can be of service to you.